Hello, everybody. I am Kelly Schwartz, CEO and owner of Schwartz Consulting Group. I appreciate you all jumping on today. Today, I've invited Daniel Richards to join us, and he and I together are going to present a few things in regards to planning to help you once we have a better idea of when all of this is going to allow you to start to restart your practice, if you will. Over the last couple weeks, we've been conducting webinars, online, recording interviews with a bunch of different resources and experts that we feel will help you with different areas of bringing your practice back on. One that I want you all to watch for this weekend is I reached out to swinging for the fences. I reached out trying to get one of the biggest names in lecturing, and that's Simon Sinek, as a motivational thinker, and went through his agent and a few others trying to get to see if he would address dentistry. And I landed the second in command. I got Cameron Harold, and Cameron Harold is the mastermind behind 1-800-GOT-JUNK. He coaches, 5 million and up companies and CEOs and so forth. And he gave me an hour of his time that we interviewed, just he and I privately, but I was able to record it, and we're going to post that this weekend. So be watching for that. We had the privilege of Kevin Barrett with High Five Practices is editing the video to make it awesome. So we'll post that out this weekend. It's one you want to see. But today we have Daniel Richards. We're going to just let Danny do some of his things after I do and show you areas where we can try to help you. So I'm going to switch to sharing my screen here, and I'm going to jump right in to Dental Intel. So for those of you who have Dental Intel, and for those of you that don't, this is one of the leading softwares that help practices get to a new level. And what I want to show you today is just a few things that you should be looking at and planning on doing. The first one is your looking at going forward, because we know this is a moving target and we don't know the date that we are going to start. We want to start giving you somewhat of an action plan. So the first thing that you should have done is canceled your appointments. If you haven't, going backwards, start canceling them from the past, moving them forward, and then setting follow-ups. Within Dental Intel, you're going to be able to see all those cancellations. So I want you to imagine you can break these into two different categories. One is hygiene, which are purple dots, and orange dots are operative. You can sort them right here. On the restorative side, these are the patients who were scheduled with operative work that may or may not have reappointed. You can see right here in the procedures what they were scheduled for and whether they've rescheduled or not. So this person, for example, was scheduled for a couple crowns, doesn't have their appointment. What we're recommending that you do is click on their name, and I have it in HIPAA mode, and set a follow-up regarding their unscheduled treatment so that you can pick a date moving forward that we think that we're going to be open. Now, what I'm trying to illustrate here, and again, because we're in privacy mode, if the patient was scheduled on a Monday, for example, on the 4th, 11th, or 18th, and we think we're going to open the first week of June, we want to move all the Monday operative appointments that were scheduled on a Monday to the 25th, the week before we open. All of the operative or hygiene appointments, we move them to a hygiene follow-up or an operative follow-up from the 5th, 12th, and 19th. We'd move them to the 26th so that we've got like days lined up for like days the week before we open. Once we have done that, they are going to appear in our follow-ups. When we open those follow-ups, we can go to a particular date that we want to see. So if we were looking at April 27th as the projected follow-up, here are all the hygiene follow-ups that were on a Monday that we want to try to schedule the following Monday or other dates. If we were looking for our unscheduled treatment, or patients that had appointments that we broke, we can work our unscheduled treatment to start piecing the doctor's schedule together. Now, another neat new thing that we've added as an element to try to help you, and we appreciate the fact that you're utilizing the software. Our partners with Dental Intel have opened up a new tool at no charge. As a client of mine, you would not be under contract, or a client of Danny's for that matter. You would not be under contract for Local Med, and it is free to use until June, or when the COVID crisis has been lifted, if you will. But this feature is relatively simple. When you click on your ReCare, for example, and this is something that's changed, where we helped you set a sequence of who to call in when, and I'll show you that in a slide, we've added a new feature. Within Local Med, it gives you the ability to now allow your patients to schedule directly into Eaglesoft, Open Dental, or Dentrix. So when you're looking at your patients that are unscheduled, that have been in within 6 months, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, these are the patients that are unscheduled. We want to bring the patients with the bigger dollar amounts or the biggest treatment plans to the top. And we only want to look at in this pie chart our unscheduled hygiene patients, which are all in red. So these patients who have the bigger treatment plans, i.e. needing the most care, we want to prevent them from having to go to an emergency room or seek emergency care. We want to be preventative when we come back up. We can now click on that patient's name, and when we make the call to get them scheduled, we also have the ability to say, Becky, this is Kelly from Dr. C's office. We're trying to get you scheduled for your cleaning. We apologize that we had to break that appointment. I'm now sending you a link where you can pick from available times that would allow you to schedule that appointment. What that would look like, and Danny, help me out that you're seeing this screen, you would get a little reminder that looks like this, that shows it's a text that allows the patient to click this link, and it goes directly to your scheduling book and gives them options. So with that,
and it's giving them the options too, Kelly, that the practice has allotted, right? It's not like they're seeing the entire schedule, just the ones that you want them to see.
Correct. It's like when you're flying on an airplane, we're giving the options of the flights in the seats that we want them to actually have. So when they get linked up in that regards, it would look, I'm going to show you what that page would look like when you're actually on it. This is one of our offices that has this. We can click this schedule, and it's going to come to a view that looks like this. So I'm a returning patient and I need an adult prophy. The office has preset times that they're allowing. So for example, if you have 2 hygienists all day or 1 hygienist all day, I'm going to limit the appointments to about 2 hours per hygienist that they have times for. So I might take a 10 o'clock and a 1 o'clock appointment. I might take every other day, give an 8 or a 3 for existing patients. But I can then view the openings and I can pick the times. A lot like when you go to book a flight, you're able to only see certain seats. Now within Local Med also, you're able to click right onto your website. They put a widget on there that allow your existing patients to schedule. And so this is just a new tool that is also available for you. You can put that same link on your Facebook page as well to help you be able to get the patients back. So in doing this, you now have that function right from within. Wherever you have a patient, you make your call as you would normally do. You know, hi Danny, I'm trying to reach you regarding your unscheduled professional cleaning oral cancer screening exam that the doctor would like to invite you back for. Please give us a call to schedule, or we've sent you a link where you can schedule at your convenience. So we've got extra ammunition. The way I look at this is you've got another tool in your tool belt, right? You've got the ability to do auto confirmation. You've got dental intel to find the patients that you want to get back into the office. But now instead of me having to, as a patient, request an appointment, it comes to the team. The team then calls the patient, tries to make an appointment. Now we just send them a link and they're able to schedule that automatically, which is something that has never been able to be done before. A lot of companies are saying that they have online scheduling, and the reality is they only have online requests, right? I haven't found a company yet that allows you to schedule directly into your scheduling book. Have you found that to be true also, Danny?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then also, Rebecca had a question about Dental Intel and if it would be used instead of EagleSoft or in addition to.
No. So LocalMed and Dental Intel is, well, let me backpedal. EagleSoft is the brain of your practice. Dental Intel picks the brain. So you need Dentrix, EagleSoft, or Open Dental in order to make everything function. That's where you schedule. It's where you put your clinical notes, your clinical charting, etc. What Dental Intel does is allows you to find that data in an easy-to-use way. So this pie chart, for example, shows you all the people that are unscheduled. And in this particular practice, it represents 1,440 people who are not scheduled right now that have been in to see the practice within 12 to 18 months. But when I'm looking to fill my hygiene appointment, I can go to patients that have been in within 6 months, that are already overdue for their cleaning, that have treatment plans. And what I can then do within Dental Intel is send them a reminder or make a phone call to invite them back to the practice. When they call, I have to schedule their appointment actually in EagleSoft. Now, one of the other tools that LocalMed has added, and we're going to do another webinar next week with LocalMed themselves, is we can allow just the administrators like Becky to have access from home where she can see the operative schedule and she can schedule the patient from home without even having to be in the office. But I do not open that up to the patients to see. So it's just another tool that's very powerful for our practices. So we wanted to share that little pearl with you. So if you have signed up, or if you have not signed up for LocalMed, reach out to us. We'll send you the link to do so. You want to use the code Schwartz, and when you sign on, you want to let them know that you already have Dental Intel, because if you have Dental Intel and a client of mine, we're going to be able to give that to you for free. You can utilize it until June or a little bit later if we don't open up. And then if you don't like it, we can disconnect it. If you do like it, we've got special pricing for people that we're engaged with, as does Danny, and we can help you use that tool. They waive the $1,000 basically sign-up fee, so that's a freebie for you, and we can help you get a little bit of relief. For those of you who already have Dental Intel as well as LocalMed, I'm working on trying to get you a little relief as well in, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of no charge, but we're working on that on your behalf. You're just ahead of the game and getting some great results. So today I wanted to just talk about those 2 key areas. When you're looking at your schedule, you want to be clearing, and probably better if I do it this way. I'll pull up my schedule and dump all these meetings that we have. And so when you're looking at your schedule of the weeks, even weeks past, anybody that was scheduled on a Monday, let's move them to Monday the 20th Monday the 27th, with the hopes that we're opening the 4th. All your Tuesdays the week before to start filling the schedule as you're coming back in. And so we're going to be able to use Dental Intel to make that happen. So if I'm looking at this particular office and I look out to, say, May 4th, they've already moved all their appointments. They're already following what we've talked about. Here's May 11th. Okay, so May 11th, we have people scheduled. If we don't expect to be open, here are the 6 people that are on the hygiene schedule. We want to click on their name and recreate a follow-up for the Monday before we think we're going to open. Then we have a hit list of 2 or 3 weeks of Monday patients at certain times. that we have a choice of filling our schedule. If we're looking at our operative, we have a hit list for that as well. So these are a couple of the little tools that we want to utilize. The other that we're going to utilize here is the patient finder. We want to find patients, for example, when we get ready to get started with unscheduled treatment. We'll click this. Sorry. And we can do either specific treatment, like we want to see patients particularly that need a crown, but for right now, we'll use dollar amounts greater than, say, $500. These are patients who have dollar amounts greater than $500 in their treatment plan that have last been seen. We can put the date during COVID, or we can say that we're seeing less than, say, 120 days ago, that have primary insurance remaining greater than $400. So what Dental Intel has gone through the entire patient base, and we dropped it down to 339 patients that are in needed. I'm going to have to pause for just a second so I can mute.
That's how it automatically goes. Oh, wow.
Let's see if we can find out.
He's a good scheduler.
There we go. Okay, so this way we have the list of 339 patients that have $500 in treatment or more that have insurance remaining greater than $400. And we can clear up the things that we don't need to see on this spreadsheet to make it a little more usable. So we just delete what we don't want to see. But for example, in this one, we do want to see if they have their next hygiene date, whether they're scheduled operative, if they have unscheduled treatment. Don't need to see which provider, but if I wanted to, I could. I don't care what insurance they have. I just want to see that they have insurance remaining and secondary insurance remaining. And this cleans up this list. So now here's my list with their next hygiene date, if they're scheduled operative, and what their unscheduled treatment is. So we can bring our unscheduled treatment to the top, as well as the insurance remaining. And these can be the patients I start calling to fill the doctor's schedule. So these are just a couple of the tools that we want you to be able to utilize in moving forward with Dental Intel. That combined with the local med element are making everything that you're doing in your practice really powerful. Now, for those of you who don't have Dental Intel or local med, Danny and I have the ability to help you get Dental Intel at no charge as a sample dry run, if you will, from now until June, or the COVID is lifted. And then we can help you with planning and strategy on how your practice is going to start to fill the schedule quickly and easily. This is a must-have tool for the general dental practice in period. Would you agree with that, Danny?
Absolutely. I think the speed and the format of the information is going to help answer a lot of those questions that practice owners have right now, which is, how am I going to weather the storm financially? And the second one is, how do I prioritize who I'm getting back on the schedule first and second and third and so on? And I think it's such a fast tool to be able to do that, especially from home. And your team members can do it from home. I don't see a way around this being just the fastest tool that you could use.
Right. So the two main tools that we want you to be able to use is to be able to reschedule your follow-ups for unscheduled patients and or patients that were broken because of COVID. And even on the patient finder, what Dental Intel has done is put together patients that are affected in different ways. For example, any hygiene broken or unscheduled since 3/16, or patient values of 150, and has put these together in Patient Finder for you. So there's some preset ways to get started and have the best restart patient list, if you will. Now, again, today, most of you have Dental Intel, and we want to let you know that we can work with you and your team from remote, schedule a time with Anna and myself, and we'll do this with you and your team online. For those of you who are on our webinar for the first time and do not have Dental Intel, we'd like you to reach out and email us so that we can help you get this tool to get restarted. And that's what this planning that we're talking about is all about. So let me take you into a couple quick things, and then we're going to let Danny do Danny. So are you seeing my PowerPoint slides right now, Danny? Okay. So earlier, both Danny and I did a webinar, and the question we're asked is, why do we use dental intel? Well, here are just a couple examples of this. These are a few offices that we work with. This office had 93% case acceptance. That means out of the 3,896 treatment plans that this office scheduled, 3,600 said yes. 84%, 1,500 out of 1,700, scheduled their treatment or we brought them back in. This office presented over $955,000 in treatment, had $1,600 or $6,100, sorry, $619,000 scheduled, or 65% of the treatment. Here's another one, 84% of the patients, 65% of the almost $1 million presented, 93% of the patients during an entire year's time frame scheduled. This office went up from 761,000 in 2017. All we really changed is the systems using dental intel went up over 1,100,000. So basically a $300,000 increase. Here's another office that was doing almost 3 million, went up to 3.7 million by implementing these systems. So when we're asked all the time, why is this so important? These are some of the results we've seen using dental intel as a tool. Now, dental intel is not a system. Danny and I teach systems to help practices go to that level. But if you look at the results, 250,000 in 6 months, 414,000 in 12 months, 187,000 in 4 months, 58 and 3, 303, 308 and 5. These are the results that practices are getting that we want to help you use in planning. Now, most of you have heard, I met Evander Holyfield a few weeks back, and when talking with him, he said, you know, basically right now, problems are an opportunity for comeback, right? And I asked him, you know, is there ever a point in a fight where you know you've won or you know you've lost? He says that going in for the heavyweight championship, 15 rounds is an hour of giving 100% of your best. You could be winning the fight through 14 and a half rounds and let up for just a moment and be laying, your opponent can put you on your back and you're looking up and you're no longer champion. On the other side of the coin, you could be behind for 14 and a half rounds, and if they drop their guard and you pop them, they're laying on their back and you're the new heavyweight champion of the world. This right now, guys, is that heavyweight fight. You've got to make sure you're doing everything you can to make sure that we make 2020 a comeback year. And maybe it won't be your best year, but it's going to be your comeback year. The gentleman to the left is Freddie Roach. He's one of the best coaches in boxing that there is. He coached Mike Tyson, Julio Chavez, a whole slew of excellent fighters. And I asked him, how do you motivate your teams, your fighters to get going? He says, there's no such thing as motivating people to do anything. I can be a good leader, but what I can do is show them the habits of successful fighters that give them the ability or the best chance to win. And so we want to show you some of those habits of being a successful practice. Systems that you need in place for retention, like recall, unscheduled treatment, and following up with cancellation and no-shows. Systems and habits of improving case acceptance through verbal skills and communication with your patients, and overall effective systems. You're going to go through 3 phases. Right now, almost everyone is in what I call the survival phase. We're just trying to figure out when we're going to get open, doing everything we can by getting our loans in place. And Danny is going to show us some financial planning and how to go about that, utilize your PPP loans and how we can plan for that. Then we're going to get into that kickstart just before reopen, and then in the recovery. During all 3 of these phases, the tools of dental intel, local med, and working with your coaches and so forth are really going to help you get there. We're trying to help you have those resources for recovery. So systems you should be looking at: recall, unscheduled treatment, cancellation, scheduling, financial presentation. All these different systems are tools that we can be working with you and your team online right now, and you can be working with your team right now. So when we reopen, you're being the best you can possibly be. And it's not, there's that saying that if you fail to plan to fail. We're not as busy as we normally are on a day-to-day basis with our practice, not working in the mouths. So now is the time to work on the practice when you're not working in the practice. And we're trying to provide you tools to do this. We look at Dental Intel, and Danny used a flight. Danny, I'm going to, that was a gimbal in the middle for the altitude on your slide.
Nice, I nailed it. That was a total guess.
But you were right. But we look at this a lot. Anna and I fly, and we say this all the time. When we're getting ready to land and all of a sudden the landing gear light comes on, the question becomes, has the landing gear failed or is the light malfunction? Either way, we need to look. Well, Dental Intel tells us how we're doing and whether it's really a problem or just a perception. So Danny, I'm going to quiz you here, for example. Let's say I present $20,000 or let's say $10,000 in treatment with you, and you schedule $1,000, right? What percentage of the dollars that I gave you did you schedule?
10%.
10%. So somebody might look at it and say, well, only 10% of the dollars are scheduled. That's a fail. No, it's 100% of the patient doing 10% of the work at this time. So the next time you come in, you do 4,000 of 10,000. Now we're 40%, but still 100% of the treatment. So one of the numbers that we look at to not determine whether it's landing gear, light that's failed, or total malfunction is we want you to be about 50% of the dollars. Anything above that is great, or 80% of the patients at least scheduling phase 1. And this is where you want to know your numbers and know what your numbers mean so you can move forward. These aren't theories, folks. These are true how we use Dental Intel. Make sure that you're looking at your recall protocols. Now, one of the things that we've changed after the first call when you leave a message, and Becky, for example, who I know is on here, is the recall master, what we want you to do is send them a link to offer them to schedule on time or online without having to wait for them to call us back. Make sure you're scripted, that your team is following the right dialogue. Make sure you're interviewing questions. The way you're talking to your patients about case acceptance are dialed in and dialed tight. When the patient doesn't schedule, for example, I showed you 57% of the dollars. So they presented 241,000 and 137,000 scheduled. But if you look here, this is where 87% of the patients scheduled phase 1. So when I got 8.7 out of 10 patients scheduling what I told them they needed, Danny, would you call that a win?
I think it depends.
Well, 87%, I mean, come on. If your kid came home with a 87 on a test, that's not a bad score, right?
No bees at our house, man. No way.
Yeah, I know. I tell my kids, shoot for the moon and grab a star. But my kids come home with an 87, I'm pretty happy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But what I'm getting at is that when 9 out of 10 patients basically schedule phase 1 at the first go-round, we're doing a lot of things right. 50% of the dollars, these patients that did 50% of the work, they did 50% now, they're going to do 50% later, because realistically, if I presented you with 12 teeth needing treatment, I realistically am not going to do 12 at one appointment anyway. So it's not really a no, it's a not yet. When a patient doesn't schedule, we recommend that you print the treatment plan and put on there why the patient didn't schedule. We bring that back to the doctor tomorrow at the huddle, and we decide the follow-up that the doctor wants. So if Dr. Paula, for example, she thinks they're going to schedule when they walk out of the office, but when the patient goes up front and they hear it's, $2,000 for the work, they put it off. Well, we bring that to the huddle and say, Dr. Paula, Kelly didn't schedule, and here's why. How do you want to follow up? We set a follow-up in Dental Intel. We should be setting a goal for our practice that we want to be productive, not just full. We believe in GOM zone scheduling, GOMB, which stands for get off my back. So if we set a goal of $5,000 for the day, the range game price is right. We wheel out an item, and if you guess what it is within that range, we win. Well, our range is 1,000 over to 500 under our goal. So if our goal is 5,000 and we have 5,800 on the books, that's a win. If we have at least 4,500, which even though it's 400 below goal, that's a win. That's the zone we want to be in on a regular basis. Too far under, too far over have their own consequences as well, but we're scheduling with a purpose to improve patient care. And within Dental Intel, we can see whether we're up and down or really consistent in our scheduling. But the results, the why we want to use it, look at this office right here, Danny. They went in 2016 in March doing 110 to doing 175,000 in just 1 month. And with the graphics, you can see that in the 4 months of implementing Dental Intel, the results that they're having on a month-over-month basis. This different office, they went from 500,000 in a month, small group practice, to 550. $50,000 a month is a lot more care provided to patients. Have signed financial arrangements in place. You know, we are working on policies and procedures to have no touch transactions. So patients are prepaying before they come in for their operative so that they're not having to hand over credit cards, sign documents, and pens. But we want to make sure we're clear on how much the patient's going to owe and when they owe it. So if you don't have Dental Intel and you want a snapshot on how we can do this, we'll do a 1-hour review with you. Danny will as well on the strengths and opportunities of your practice that we can help you with. So you want to ask yourself, you know, is the landing gear light on or has the landing gear malfunctioned? And these are some of the tools that Dental Intel can offer. We're offering our online Kickstart program, 2-day jumpstart in your practice, full coaching and CEO training. Most of you are already working with me or with Danny, but some of you we've only met a few times and want to give you that opportunity. So those are a few things that we can do. You can put in the chat function any questions you have, but I want to keep a fast-moving presentation going here. So what I am going to do is stop sharing my screen, and I am going to turn this over to Danny. So stop sharing. And Danny, I am going to make you the host so you can take over. Let's see.
Actually, I can just share my screen without you making me the host. I'm good.
Can you do that?
Yeah. Plus, I think if you make me the host, it'll stop your recording.
Okay, great.
So we're good. You can see my screen.
I can see your screen, and I just need to see the chat. Go ahead and get going, and I'll try to figure things out.
You can see this slide if I write on it. Hold on a second.
There we go.
Okay, you can see that scribble I just made?
I can, yes.
Perfect. All right, I just want to make sure. I have 3 monitors going right now. Make sure I was on the right one. Okay, so Kelly, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. We, very selfishly, I love the fact that all my clients that have joined now got to see all that, because that's gold, and they've already heard me share a lot of this stuff. So I'm glad for them to be able to see some of the data and the information to be able to launch out of this fast, because we, 2 of the biggest questions right now that we have with our practice owners are things that I want to very quickly address, how we're helping them out of them. And the first one is about cash flow. And there are so many question marks right now with how to effectively manage cash flow coming out of this. And there's a lot of programs that have been made available to help small businesses have better cash flow and have some cash relief throughout all this. But they have made them about as difficult to understand as they possibly could be. Because let's face it, it's the government and government agencies, and nothing they do is simple or straightforward. So you've probably seen or watched quite a few webinars or information on the PPP loan itself and on EIDL. So we don't need to rehash that, but if you do have questions on them, feel free to put them in the chat box so we can at least address some of those kind of final questions. They did approve the second round of funding for PPP. They even released new guidance. SBA released new guidance that made it more difficult for public companies to access this second round. And so if you, that hopefully means that it's going to last a little bit longer. And there's even pressure on the public companies that got it on the first round to give it back. So hopefully that's going to be the case. Every bank has a different process for getting to this PPP money, which is ridiculous because it's actually a really straightforward underwriting process. But hopefully you were able to apply for it and get it. If you haven't yet, you will soon.
On that note, Danny, if you're a doctor and you're listening in, could you put in the chat, got my loan or did not get my loan, so we can kind of get an idea?
Yeah, that would be helpful. And even with the EIDL, the grant money that was the initial filing that everyone had, we haven't seen very many practices have it. And even the ones that have received it, there's no explanation. They just get a deposit. There's no email, no nothing. It's just, here's $8,000 or here's $4,000. It's so poorly organized, but I'll get off my soapbox on that. But yeah, if you put in the chat box, if you have it or haven't, it'd be nice to see. One thing about so two things I want to address. One is cash flow, and we'll talk a little bit about the PPP, and I'll show you a spreadsheet here that we use for cash flow projections. And then the other one is to be able to spring back into this, how and when am I going to start hiring my team back? And how does that affect all the finances that come into play with unemployment and the CARES Act money that they're getting for unemployment and your PPP money and the Family First Coronavirus Relief Act with all the paid leave that they can receive. It can be fairly complex, but let me spoil it for you and just say, these decisions have to be made with your practice in mind first. Okay, nobody else can come and make these decisions for you. And it can't be a hive mentality of everyone else is doing this, so I'm going to do this too. You have to be able to take the information and analyze it for your own situation, your own team, your own office. Okay, that's the best recommendation I can give you. And that doesn't mean that it's easy, but it should be simple. And if my clients know anything about me, Kelly, you're learning this too, is that I am the king of oversimplification. So I'm an
Real quick, Danny, one question we got is, and I think you're going to cover this, is one of our doctors said he got his loan, but have questions about when to discontinue unemployment and start using PPP now that $600 federal checks have come in.
Nailed it. Okay, so we're definitely going to address that. And let me caveat all of that by saying I'm not an employment attorney, so you can't really take all of this as legal advice, but you can take it as, if I was a practice owner, these are some of the decisions that I would be thinking about and the information in hand to be able to make them. Okay. So with the PPP, if you have it now, or if you anticipate receiving it, this is a little cash flow projection tool that a cash flow projection tool that we've used with most of our clients and that we're still continuing to use. And we'll send this out so everyone can have it in hand. But it's a way to just take the information from the second dial of the 3 dials you need to have in hand. The profit and loss is the second dial. So if you can get a hold of this information from your accounting team or from QuickBooks Online, wherever you can go to download it, take the information for the costs that you have, all of your income and all of your expenses, and you can actually plug it in right here for the 2019 total, and it'll calculate your monthly average for you so that you can kind of populate what a projection will look like for 2020. And none of that's going to be 100% accurate, but at least it gives you an idea to say, if 2020 was going to look like 2019 looked, it would have been a pretty good year or a pretty good indicator of what the year would look like. And then we have some information here in these 3 months, these 90 days, that we need to be able to toggle out. So with patient fees, we know that we're going to have a significant reduction. Okay, so if I have 100% here, it's going to take my normal monthly average and populate it in each of those months. But if I think I'm going to average out to be at 20% of my normal collections for those 90 days, then it's going to not only reduce my collections, but it's also going to reduce the costs that I have that are directly associated with that production. And that's going to be my back office costs, my lab fees, my supply bill, those are all going to be reduced, at least somewhat correlated to my reduction in collections. Does that make sense? And I can't see the chat box, so if somebody's got questions on it too, you can just cut me off.
Okay, and just so we're clear, guys, we know, for example, 99% of us did very little to no production in May. If you put a 0 in that, the wages Danny's talking about, we're not really paying the staff, but if we are, you can manually go into that wage and plug in that number.
Yep.
And because we didn't have lab costs, we would put a 0 in there. But if we did have a lab bill that carried over, we could plug it in. So it's easy for you to see where you're going to be. Now, the other side of this, guys, is whenever this sheet that Danny will make available to all of you, you can use this for as long as you need to and adjust any months you need to adjust. You can provide this tool to your CPA if you need to say, hey, look, help me project this.
Yep. And here's another one we'll make available too. This is a 13-week cash flow forecast. It operates similar to the one that we are looking at. This was created by one of our other consulting CFOs, and some people like this format better. It's a little bit more simple on the information that needs to get input here in terms of, payroll, rent, utilities. So you could plug in each of the numbers, and then it will start to give you what your liquidity is. How much cash do I have on hand? Okay, similar to this one. This one's maybe a little bit more specific and detailed on what my expenses are. But in the end, what's important is that I can look at how cash is affected by these changes. And I know that I'm going to have a month where maybe in April I collected some fees from production in March, and then in May I collect nothing, and then in June I start to collect a little, even though I'm seeing patients close to full time, depending on where your practice is and what the scenario is in your state. But if I can just put a blanket across those changes, I can at least see how that might affect my cash on hand. So where this would help, this number down here is essentially what I want to input as my cash in hand. And if I have $50,000 in my checking account and I get some PPP money and that increases to $90,000 because I take that $40,000 and I add it to the pot, I can see how that's going to influence how much cash on hand I'm going to have for the remainder of the year. And that spread at the end of the day is going to show me, okay, well, I started out this period with 90 in hand, and I'm going to end it with 84 in hand. So I'm out $5,700, right? So again, this is not meant to be a panacea, right, of this problem. There's so many variables we have to fill in, but if we can plug in a few with some pretty good estimates, then we're going to be able to see what type of an effect that's going to have on our cash. Now,
let me ask a simple question. Why is this important to our clients? It's obvious, but what's the why?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, because if I need to see, the entire story is about cash on hand right now. It is the lifeblood of your practice. And before I start to make all these other should I questions, should I hire my team back now versus later? Should I, there's a very long list of the should I questions that I have right now. I need to know how much cash I'm going to be able to have to do it. And this doesn't just take into account my net income, because I'm going to add into that all of my other non-net income related expenses, things like owner's draws or principal payments on loans, the things that are on my third dial, which is my cash flow statement, that aren't on my P&L, because I need to know those in order to see what my true cash burn is, or my burn rate.
And on that, if I got a deferment on my rent, or if I got a deferment on, any of my expenses, if you will, credit cards, practice payments, whatever they may be, I can change that on these forms, correct? To have a better understanding of where I'm going to be.
Yes, absolutely. And I need to, because it feels good to get those deferments. It feels like a win, but it still doesn't put me any closer to knowing how much cash I'm going to have at the end of this process. And if you have that, I marvel at how much relief that brings when you can start to see how this is going to play out. And nobody knows, but at least it gets you a little closer to knowing and being able to make informed decisions as a result.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so that's the cash flow piece. I'm going to send that out to everyone. This projection as well as the other one I showed you, the 13-week one. My clients are gonna ping me with an email afterwards and go, I don't need this because you're doing it for us, which is great. I actually had one of my clients tell me that this information, doing all this, makes her want to stick a fork in her eye. So if that's how it makes you feel, we can get on a call and try to walk you through it a little bit. But it really is an important aspect to being able to navigate this from a cash flow standpoint. Okay, so the second piece is when do I hire back and how? Okay, so that's going to be something that's going to differ for everybody. But how it's, oh, you know what? I'm going to take 2 minutes and give you information on how your tax team or your accounting team, your bookkeeping team can keep better track of the PPP money. So the PPP money is very important to track over the next 8 weeks because any money you spend of that loan that is for specific categories, you can get forgiven. But if you don't do a good job of keeping track of that, then you won't have the information in hand to submit to get it forgiven. Okay, so what we would suggest, a couple of quick tips: deposit the PPP money into a separate account, not your main operating account. Even if it has to go there first, because that's the information you're on your loan, that's fine. Have your bank open a separate checking account. They don't usually cost any money. Have the PPP money sent there, so it's separate. Okay, then on the bookkeeping side, you need to have your bookkeeping team add a class to their bookkeeping that's PPP class. That way, every transaction that happens that is either payroll, health insurance, employer portions of retirement plan contributions, utilities, rent, and still being debated, interest on debt obligations that you had prior to February 15th. Because the original bill said you could get those forgiven too, but it has not been talked about since then. So who knows if that's actually going to be there, but track it anyway. Okay, so class out those transactions so that every time you spend money in that category, you'll know exactly how much money to the penny to move from your PPP checking account to your operating checking account. Then at the end of those 8 weeks, you run a single report from your bookkeeping system, probably QuickBooks, that tells you all the PPP expenses, and you have whatever money that's remaining in that PPP loan account. That should be the amount that is not going to be forgiven because you did not spend it on forgivable expenses. Okay, does that make sense? I know that those are really simple things, but if you can get your teams to do that, the end of this 8-week period after you've spent your PPP money is going to be a breeze to get it done. Okay, so when do I hire my team back and how?
So real quick, sorry, Daniel, will
Yep.
you repeat the or email those categories for the PPP?
Yeah, I'll include that in the email with the projections.
Also, FYI, bank, I'm reading comments for you. FYI, banks are so overwhelmed. Many have discontinued opening new business accounts to deposit the PPE. They tried, and it's not even a possibility.
Yeah, no, and I don't doubt that at all. Banks they don't even know how to handle this. It's the first thing for everybody. So if you can't or don't open a second account, here's what you can also do. You can create a sub account inside of the bookkeeping software, QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. You can essentially create a sub account inside of your main operating checking account and just call it the PPP checking account. It's not actually a separate account, but your bookkeeper or accountant, they can keep track of it as if it was. That's just, it's not something that you can necessarily do on your own. So I wanted to give you the first solution you can do on your own. The second solution is if you have a good team on the back end to help you do it. So it's a good question, a good point. Okay, so the last thing was hiring back and when and how. This is going to vary by office. It's going to vary by state. You obviously have quite a bit of red tape when it comes to paid leave and unemployment, things you can ask, things you can't ask, etc. If I was a dental practice or running a dental practice, and I was encountering the same situation in Idaho, which is where I am, and my team is laid off right now. They're all collecting unemployment, but we are planning on seeing patients first week of May. May 5th, we have panels of patients to see, right? Who knows if that's going to change, but at this point, that's the status of our state. I would anticipate not having a full schedule. And so I'm probably going to have some type of skeleton crew. Now,
We've been recommending that we look at bringing them back in thirds. So 2 weeks to a week before, we bring back the team that starts to build the schedule. The week we open, we bring back the team and see how we keep it full. And then as we start to hit more full stride, if we can, then we start bringing back additional day, 2, 3, till we're into full recovery.
yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. So in that scenario, if I'm bringing my team back in waves, then I'm also aware of the fact that if I bring somebody back for 20 hours, then that individual's unemployment insurance benefit that they're receiving could potentially be reduced. So what I would tell you is what matters the most is taking care of your patients and your practice. And your team is a piece of that, of taking care of your practice. But if you're too worried about that person's unemployment benefit going away because you're paying them too much to work for you, then the work that they're doing is less of a priority than them being paid not to do that work. So I would make sure that what Kelly's talking about is true, is that the work you're having them do is more important than them just being paid not to work. Okay. Now, in most states, there's going to be a balance to strike, right? In Idaho, it's 50%. So if my employee's receiving $300 a week in unemployment benefits, if they come back and work for me and earn over $150 in that week, they can still receive their full unemployment check plus the CARES check. If they receive $200 a week, which is it's $50 over 50% of their weekly benefit, then their weekly benefit is going to be reduced by $50, right? It's a dollar for dollar reduction. Okay, but what we've read and are told, this could change at any point because the government changes these guidances like daily, is that they could receive even $1 of state unemployment insurance benefit and still receive the $600 a week from the CARES Act. Okay, don't hold me to that because maybe tomorrow that's different. But if I'm bringing my team back, I want to prioritize them doing the work that I need them to do. And if that reduces their unemployment benefit, then it reduces their unemployment benefit. But I possibly could still make the decision to say, if I have a choice of bringing 2 team members back, both at 15 hours a week, then maybe I'm having the discussion with the team member that maybe all their kids are still at home and they'd rather stay at home and not come back for 15 hours. And the other team member is going to come back for 30 hours, right? Those are the decisions that each practice is going to have to make.
And on a side note, Schwartz Consulting Group, Anna and myself, our feeling is that your team are the most valuable asset to your business. They are going to make more difference than anybody you can have, with one caveat, if you will. Your team have to feel the same way about you. You don't want people who are just showing up because they're getting paid. I want to treat my team like they're friends and family, but I expect them to take care of me and the patients the same way.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the thing that I would caution against right now is there is so much uncertainty that you have in making these decisions. But we as human beings, we flee unpredictable environments. Okay, so you have to create a predictable environment for your team to be able to come back strong. So if you have, very flimsy conversations with them around, well, we might bring you back for 10 hours, or we might bring you back for 20 hours, or this or that, that those conversations can be dangerous because it makes them feel like it's an unpredictable environment. So I would try and do your best to get your ducks in a row on when your start date is. Take Kelly's advice on a good startup plan to get in there and get in hard, but then also know exactly who your key team members are, that first third, and that is your plan. And if that sacrifices their unemployment benefit, then I don't feel like personally that should play a significant role in the decision process. But that's just one guy's opinion. Did that answer the question that the doctor had about PPP money and when to bring them back?
I believe so. I do have a new one on here. If anyone concerned with the 480 unemployment plus $600 federal makes about 55 grand a year. If the employee decides staying home is better.
I think that's every doctor's fear right now, is that they're having to compete with not working and making more money.
And here again lies with what is ethical, what is right, and that's for everyone to decide. Take care of the staff that want to take care of you. And at some point, that unemployment money is going to run out. At some point, that the government's going to say you need to get out there and apply for jobs and be doing some things that right now have been loosened. So with unemployment and some of these loans and so forth, the qualifiers are you don't have to be looking for a job and searching. That is going to change, correct, Danny? I mean, eventually it's going to be like, all right, time to get off your butt and do something.
Right, and so, and one, Jameson Spencer, who I think of as kind of the godfather of dental sleep medicine, he wouldn't call himself that, but I do. He gave me a key piece to this in terms of your team, and he said that you need to trim the fat, spare the muscle, and save the bone. And Kelly, your theory on the thirds, I think is important there too. So if I've got a team member that's saying, look, I'm only going to make 35,000 or 40,000 coming back to work, and I can make 50,000 by staying at home and not working, you kind of have to decide which of those three they are.
But they got to remember that 600 runs out in July, correct? Or at least that's the plan.
12 weeks. They can draw on it for 12 weeks.
Okay.
So it's a short-term win for them, but it may be a long-term loss.
Yeah.
So I that one's a tough one, man. I honestly, every practice owner is thinking that right now. My dental assistants are all making more money at home than they are working for me. Unless you pay your dental assistants over high 20s, low $30 an hour, then they're making more working, not working, and that's a tough one.
Well, one of my friends up in Ohio, he's got an assistant, and he's on this seminar. You know who you are, my Ohio buddy. He has a gal that's been with him for years, and she's got many kids at home. She says she comes to work to get a break from her work at home. So for any amount of money, I think she would work for free just to get away, if you will.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll stop sharing screen. If there's any other questions or anything that people have, feel free to throw them in the chat or just to send me an email, daniel@cfodentalpartners.com. I'll send an email out to all the participants with the 2 cash flow projections and a couple of those tips in terms of the bookkeeping side. But honestly, we want to be here to help you guys come out of this strong and to not let it run you in the ground emotionally in the meantime, because I know that it's very stressful sitting around doing nothing, waiting for this thing to blow over.
Okay. So if we can help you in any way, Danny or myself, you can reach out to us. Our toll-free number is 1-800-785-3004. Kelly@kellyschwartz.com. Most of you already know me and work with me, and that's great. We love you. I know a lot of Danny's clients are on here as well, but we're both here to work with you as a resource. Reach out to either one of us, and we can get in touch with you or respond to anything you need. So,
yeah, and honestly, if you reach out to me, guys, and you say, hey, I'm one of Kelly's clients, and I've got a couple of these questions, your time is mine. I really want to help you as much as we can.
So, Danny, I've got a few doctors on here that have they have multiple practices, a couple different locations. How can CFO help those clients or even a single doctor owner?
Yeah, so that's a really difficult aspect to running a practice. When you have multiple locations, there's so much data that is so compartmentalized that makes it difficult to manage them in the aggregate. And so one of the things that we like to do is to be able to take that information in each location, but then aggregate the information that is important to see altogether. Like a marketing budget, if I have multiple locations, but a single marketing budget, I need to be able to see how that single marketing budget is affecting each location in terms of new patient acquisition, what campaigns are working here versus working there. We don't do the marketing, but we aggregate the data so that we can see how that's affecting kind of the practice as a whole. Because they are separate, but they're so related, there's really no separating them. But all the financials are all separated, all the practice data ends up separated. So, for us, we want to be able to take that information, put it into a format that's more digestible for the CEO, so that when the practice owner has to put that CEO hat on, they have quick, real-time, like digestible information so they can make those decisions fast, get back into the chair wearing the clinician hat. And then when it's not time to wear either of those hats, it's time to wear the parent hat or the go out and play hat, which is my favorite hat to wear. But it's uncomfortable for practice owners to wear the CEO hat, especially in co-located practices, multi-located practices, because they're not getting the data that makes those decisions easy to make.
Okay. Well, I thank you for your time, Danny. I know you're very busy. You've got a few other webinars to do. Thank you, everyone who took the time to jump on and listen today. If we can help you on any level, have questions or just be a resource, Danny and I are here to do that for you. You know how to reach us, and follow us on Facebook, and or you can click on our link on our website, and or watch your emails. We're constantly posting new resources, tools, and videos that you can use for anything that you have. We got one more chat question. Do you have any contact info for Danny? So that's being answered.
Yeah, I'll throw that in there, and then I'll also send follow-up emails as well.
Okay. And anyone who wants Danny's worksheet, feel free to reach out to him directly, and we'll get that worksheet, and then he and I will coordinate in any way we can help you. Okay?
All right. Hey, thanks again, Kelly. Really appreciate you doing this.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you at our next webinar. Have a great day.